I told Jesus, you love your child. You don't want to. And even though I couldn't see his face clearly, I saw his head nod, and I knew he was smiling. And that's when I turned back into the blue spirit body. And I sat my butt down in Jan's butt. I slipped a spiritual foot into each one of her spiritual legs, and not totally, because then I grabbed my spiritual knees and I rocked back and forth in her body until I got up enough momentum to lay back down and help her sit up for air and gasp for air. Now, all the time I re-entered my body, there was a voice from heaven kept repeating, and this message is not only for me, it's for everybody. And it kept repeating, love is the only thing that matters. Love is the only thing that matters.
Yeah.
So then I noticed another light approaching from the distance off to the left through the darkness, and it was coming forward in a slight S-shaped curved. And this light, though, in the meantime, whipped into in front of me, and it then suddenly grew up into a light being. I called it a light being at that time, and I'll tell you why. But he had I couldn't see his face clearly. He was radiated with light, and he had light rays coming out of his heart center. And I could see his hair. I drew pictures, and that's in my book, of what I saw. But his face was so bright that I couldn't see his distinguishing features. Plus, I was radiating light too. So there was a lot of light there at that time. He had a gown of white with it hanging from his wrists, and a floor-length gown, and tied at the waist with a rope. And I thought, that's Jesus. But then I said, no, it's not. Because why would he be here for me? Because, that's what we all think. Why would he come here?
We feel unworthy. Yeah.
So I said, I discounted it. And that's so as I looked at him, I thought, okay, it's a male, looks like a male form, but he had hair down here. So I thought, oh, I don't know any men with long hair, must be a woman. So I was rationalizing it away. And that's what we do, So I described him as a light being, when later on in my experiences, which is some of the experiences that he showed me, I got a face-to-face view of him, because he came, he wanted me to know that was him. And then a third one in another experience as well. So
I have goosebumps.
Yeah, that was Jesus that was there for me. And he loved me no matter my failures or my successes. He loved me just for being me. And just like he does each and every one of us. And we just have no idea how much that he actually does love us. And then he put his hand out to me. By that time, the light was now beside him, and it had bubbling clouds around the outside of it, but and it had, even though the light radiating out of it was white, I could feel the colors in it, and it was alive. It was the living light of God and his energy. Now, whether or not, because Jesus' hair was being in a breeze across his chin, and it was toward the light. So whether we were being sucked toward this light, or whether we had moved to that light, but I think we were sucked toward it, because that's where his hair was going. Now, if we were moving toward the light, his hair would have been going the other direction. So then all of a sudden, Jesus held his hand out to me, and he said, it was his right hand, and he's in a gesture of, come take my hand. And he said, it's time to come home, Jan. My first thought was my daughter, Gina, because I was, we're close, and I wondered how she was going to take my death. The boys are more independent and involved in their lives. So I knew they'd be crushed, but not as much as Gina. And without even having asked, he answered, she'll be okay. So I was okay. I wanted to go to heaven. Who wouldn't want to stay in
doesn't?
this environment that we have?
Right.
So because I wanted to go, then God, all of a sudden, rainbow arms reached out and enfolded me and pulled me toward him. And I felt like my back was against his chest and he was embracing me. And then he showed me many movie moments of my life and told me these moments matter, understand them. And some of them I had recognized because they had already happened, but some I didn't recognize because they hadn't happened. And so then he released me, and I still wanted to go to heaven. So that's when the angels came for me. And I morphed then from the orb shape into the shape of a translucent person. The angels touched my elbows, above my elbows on the back of my arms, and lifted me high into the sky. And then I could see the lay of the land around us and inside the house as if there was no ceiling. And my husband and I lying in bed. I had all perspectives. And then I noticed that there was two vehicles, a vehicle, right? Two lights coming up the gravel road. And because the angels had jumped us ahead in time, they jumped us into the future of when my body was going to be, the emergency help was going to come and try to save me. But we were so far out of the city and away from quick help, there was no way that, that I could have survived that, I believe. So I was okay with my death. And I had during that time, the full descriptions in the book, and that's, I become one with everything. I was in all places at all times. I was feeling the bumps of the road, even though like I was a person in the vehicle. I could see us down in the room below, everything. So our spirit, our share of God's spirit, can be in all places at all times, just like God can, because we're a spark of the divine once we're out of our body. But because they knew I didn't want to go to heaven, because they know our thoughts. Every thought, they live inside of us. So they live life and experience life with us. So I still wanted to go to heaven, and then they jumped us back to the present. And I was instantaneously in front of God's light again, just on the precipice of entering. And then I was shown one more image, and it was my middle child, Kurt. And when I saw his picture, I knew something was going to happen to him in the future. And if I wasn't there to support him through this time, his life is likely to go down a path that wouldn't be so good for him. Now, how did I know that? It's because it was planned. There are certain moments in our life, and this is in scriptures too, that are planned for us to learn. And these will happen no matter what pathway we take. It may manifest a little bit differently on one pathway than the other, but they will happen. So I told, at that time, I told Jesus, you love your child. You don't want anything to happen to him. So I said, I'm not ready to go yet. And even though I couldn't see his face clearly, I saw his head nod, and I knew he was smiling. And that's when I turned back into the blue spirit body. And I sat my butt down in Jan's butt. I slipped a spiritual foot into each one of her spiritual legs. And not totally, because then I grabbed my spiritual knees and I rocked back and forth in her body until I got up enough momentum to lay back down and help her sit up for air, gasp for air. Now, all the time I re-entered my body, there was a voice from heaven kept repeating, and this message is not only for me, it's for everybody. And it kept repeating, love is the only thing that matters. Love is the only thing that matters. So that was, then Jan sat up and had to live her life, wondering, because she had no idea when this was going to happen or what it was going to happen. So that was the third, and I was afraid then because this one I couldn't discount. What happened? What was this? Am I going crazy? So I didn't tell anybody for a lot of years. And then God guided me, which is in the book, guided me to the answers that I needed. So what did I learn through these spiritual experiences? First, that we need to know that our spirit never dies, and everyone needs to understand that our consciousness is the real us. After I left my physical body during that third NDE, I still retained my thoughts and my memories of who I was in this lifetime. So that's what we take with us, and so it shows that our consciousness is our spirit. It's not the brain. The brain may handle the functions of the body and may in a way be a filter for the consciousness to work, but it is our consciousness that is our spirit. And that's where we get a lot of guidance. We get it daily. We'll have little subtle messages come through, like reminding you, that you forgot something, or I was baking a cake, and I was putting the whippers into the mixer, and I had it plugged in at the time, and I heard a voice just in my mind, unplugged the mixer. I thought, oh, good idea. So I unplugged it.
Right. I kind of think, we get those little insights all the time. And when we don't pay attention to them is when we regret it, for sure. But I kind of think of the brain as a processor.
Yeah.
The hard drive, I guess you could say.
Yeah. Spirit. Another thing I learned was the spirit can transform into different shapes and colors. So I'll get to that, but I believe you should not discount orbs.
I have a company my sister and I have a company called Orb Sisters, where we have thousands and thousands of photos of orbs and anomalies that are just so amazing. And they do actually, we talk to them, we communicate with them, and they respond to us. Yeah. So orbs are sentient.
Yeah. Yeah. So as I mentioned previously, that another thing is that the prayers are answered. And even if we don't get the answers, it's because it's either not part of our lesson plan, or there's somebody else's lesson plan involved here too. Maybe they're learning something from our experience, but we've made all these agreements before we even came here.
Let me ask you, yes, I totally agree with that, of course. When it's kind of hello, after you start becoming self-aware, then all that information is like, oh, now it makes so much sense. But going back to orbs real quick, how did you know you were an orb? Was it just you just realized it? You knew it? You had that knowing? It was natural for you?
The way I transform, folding the arms, folding in, and I could feel it folding up, and then I kind of tucked. So
okay, that's right.
I transformed. And then when I finished transforming, I was sitting in a wand, like bubbles are blown from, a wand made of love. And this was indicative of a prayer that I had prayed years earlier. And during this time frame, you're praying and with the words of the songs. And some of the songs we sang were Jesus, You're All I Need, Heal My Soul, He Touched Me, and all those things happened in my near-death experience. So that my soul was healed. Breathe upon me, breathe upon me, breath of God was another one. So being in the orb shape, sitting in a wand like children blow bubbles from, was his message to me that he created me, just by his breath. That this NDE was created in such a way to reflect that prayer so that I knew that I could make that connection.
Nice.
Yeah.
I love that. Let me share something with you real quick. I watched a documentary on Sasquatch recently, and it is really good. I can't remember the name of it. It's really good. And there's a video of a couple of guys are videotaping a Sasquatch standing on the side of the road, and he folds himself up and turns into, I believe it's a blue orb or orange orb. I'm sorry, orange orb right in front of them on camera. He squats down, folds up, and he turns into an orange orb and flies off.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they have the ability, we could do that in the physical as well if we just would remember how to do that and change that frequency. You knew that in that higher realm, you knew exactly what you needed to do or what to do.
It just happened naturally.
Right.
Yeah. So going back to the moments that were planned, not everything is planned. Just like you go on a vacation, depending on what route you take, depends on what you're going to see. So every choice we make can take us on a different location, and different way things are going to happen. But as I said, not everything is planned, and that is in Scripture, because it says that he knew us before we were born, and every moment was laid out before a first breath was taken. And he clearly said moment. And I was shown moments of my life, not every second of my life. And he doesn't leave us to flounder when we're confused and stuff. He will guide us to the information we need. We just have to be open to the information that we get and take it up on it, because there's little gifts that are out in the world for us to find, and we just have to discover them. And I also learned that there's everything is for spiritual growth, and there's a council of elders that I call them high spiritual beings that plan how our lessons will manifest. And I know this because when I was pulled up out of my body one night and found myself before a panel of high spiritual beings. And during the process of that talk, because they wanted to know what I learned about judgment, because I had judged people, and they knew what I'd already learned, but they had made it known that they brought Bob into my life, my current husband, for a lesson plan, not only for me, but for him too. So they bring our paths together, and we just have to connect. Now, I had an option of whether or not I wanted to let him into my life or not, but that was a special plan. And if I hadn't let him in, I would not have learned this lesson, how I had misjudged people, because he took me to places in the world where I discovered I judged people on something I knew nothing about. I judged them on their clothing because it wasn't like mine, their housing because it wasn't like mine. So it took me back to the roots of judgment. And we need to always evaluate, where did we get these judgments from? Where did they come from? Is it because we only listened to somebody else and took on that information as true instead of checking it out ourselves? We mustn't do that. And because there's so many cultures in this world that we need to be more understanding and compassionate about how other people live in comparison to ours.
Mhm.
So as I was leaving this group, it was a magnificent thing because everything appeared over the heavens. And the council of elders, I told them, they were happy with that I had learned, and they were chuckling. And when I was falling backwards toward my body, I said, this was so cleverly laid out for me to learn. And it's up to us to grasp that information. So, yeah. And then another thing I learned was that we have soul contracts. You know, like Bob. Bob had a soul contract to meet me and help me. And he learned because he's very analytical and didn't believe in this kind of stuff. But after time in attending interviews where I've interviewed people for a book, that he now has been a big advocate of mine. So, and I had a soul contract with my daughter and a soul contract with Kurt as well. So, and I also came to know that we have multiple lives. And I can say this because I remember Bob from a previous or parallel, however it works, lifetime. He saved me in another lifetime. And when we came together in this life, I didn't recognize him until he had aged. And then I clearly could see that he was the person that had saved me in that other lifetime. So we have soul groups that move together, or maybe he's my what do they call that? Soul flame.
Soulmate. Soulmate.
Yeah. Soulmate. Yeah.
Soulmate.
Maybe he is. I don't know, because he's everything I thought I could never have. So it was a very big gift for me. And let's see, only by examining everything in our past, because we can do this. I sat down to write my book, and then I had to analyze everything, the people who were in those areas at the time, and what did I learn from them? Because these people are there for particular reasons, for us to learn from them or from us to help them learn. And so you can look at who you have soul contracts with if you analyze your life in the rearview mirrors of what you learn. And if an event keeps happening over and over again, and this happens a lot with relationships, if that problematic situation keeps repeating, we haven't learned what we're supposed to grasp. And it's not that we just need to learn it, we need to implement the learning so that it doesn't happen again.
Otherwise, or heal it. It's kind of the same thing. Heal it. Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. And I would like to mention it is important, like I said, not to discount orbs. And I suggest that people, when they find orbs in their films, put them in a special file folder, at least a copy of them, and you'll be able to see where they're located. And usually our guides are kind of behind us. Or off to our side a little bit, but they'll move around with us because they're always there to protect us when they can, but they can't interfere with our life because we have free will. So in closing, I want to share that we create our own reality. We make our life a mystical adventure by thinking positive and being open to the inner voice. And that helps us every day. So we can create a life of negativity, which will make our life miserable. So I hope everybody chooses positivity, and we should wake up every morning and go to sleep every night, because things happen in our dreams, wondering where we're going to be taken and what we're going to be supposed to learn, because life is the most mystical adventure that we'll ever have, and try to make it a good one, because the message from heaven is love is the only thing that matters. So live life with love and lift everybody to be the best that they can be. That's what I learned from my near-death experiences. And there's much more in the book because there's things I can't cover.
Well, I'm going to get your book. I didn't even know you had a book, and I apologize for that. I would have read it before we started talking, because I love reading people's books when I interviewed them, or get to chat. So thank you, Janet. Yes, I mean that's a huge lesson for us, and it seems like that's what most NDEers kind of come back with, right? That love is all there is, and that was one thing that Yeshua taught me as well, is because he had a conversation with me in my book. I share this, that okay, what is God? We went down that because I would sit with him and have these conversations. My classroom, I called it my classroom. And he asked me one time, what do you think about God? What do you think God is? And I'd say, things like, oh, God is in everything. And he'd say, and God is this, and God is that. And then one day I got it, because we'd have that conversation. And then I go on to my own life. If I didn't get the answer correctly during our teachings, when we'd come back, it was if this was a dream. Everything out here was a dream, but sitting with him was all that was real. That was the only thing that was real. And then I go back to my dream, kind of like when we go to sleep and we enter the dream time. It was like that. And sitting with him was all that was real. Finally, I think it was after the third conversation, it hit me. God is love.
Yep.
and he's like, bingo, now we can move on.
Well, that's the golden rule in the Bible. Love is the only thing that matters, and that's what he is: pure, unadulterated love.
Yeah, love. Beautiful, beautiful story. Thank you so much for honoring me and sharing that here. And what your book again? Do you mind showing your book so we can?
Yeah.
Okay. Dying to See, Janet Tarantino.
Revelations about God, Jesus, our pathways, and the nature of the soul.
Beautiful. I love it. Thank you. So, where can people contact you if you're all right with people contacting you?
Of course. My Gmail is janettarantinoauthor@gmail.com. You can reach me through my website, janettarantino.com. There's all my social media links or have icons on my website. So you can click on that and go to any of my social media sites, and you're welcome to join me. And there's also a contact page there. Oh, and there's also a film of my dad. I captured his spirit leaving his body. And I have it on my YouTube channel. That's you can look me up, Janet Tarantino, to my YouTube channel. And I have a film on there that I created showing Dad's spirit, and I slow it down. Need to follow the whole story behind it, why it happened. And I show 5 different films of my dad at that time. His face is pixelated for people's comfort and for out of respect for him. Mm-hmm. And he gave me permission to do all this stuff because I had taken care of them the last 5 years of their life. And I felt that I asked him, this is a great thing for me can I study the dying process? Will you share everything with me so I can share it with the world if need be? And they said, yes, they signed contracts. And this was Dad's last ditch effort to show me what transitioning to heaven was like. I know that in my heart anyway. And I slow the 4th video is of it quickly leaving his body. Don't focus on the face, focus on the entire screen and the movement that happens there, or you'll miss it. And then the next video, I slow it down so we can get a closer look. And the energy changes direction when I slow it down, because there's, with fast movement, there's an optical illusion, like a spinning tire that seems to change direction. And when it's slowed down, then it's going the right direction. Or an airplane propeller seems to turn backwards. Same thing, he had whipped out of his body so fast. Then when it got out, then it moved to the left toward my mom, who was dying in the next room. She died 9 days later. And I also tell what happened between his death and her death, who she saw and had experiences with during that time frame. Right now, it's got over 600,000 views and lots of likes, and people are just amazed, sharing their own experiences underneath the video. And it's nice. It's amazing. It's very helpful for people. There's another video on there. I slow it even more, and it appears that this energy there's 6 spiritual beings there with him. The light beings that are moving. So I want to check those out too.
Oh, that's amazing. I will definitely do that. So I will have all of Janet's information in the details for sure. Okay. Anything else you'd like to share before we close? I really appreciate you being here.
Just live life with love and lift everybody to be the best they can be.
Nice. Nice. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, and speaking of books, if you don't know already, my book is out because I've been talking about it for a long time, 10 years in the making. I don't know if you can see it, but that's how I saw
That's
him.
the way he was. That's the way he
Isn't that an amazing depiction of him? It took a little while with the artist for me to get it to where it's like, but that's it right there. Yeah. Awakened
Same
soul.
length of hair and everything.
Mhm.
Did he look like that?
Not to me.
That's the one I had.
Yeah, he didn't look like that to me. I have a depiction. He actually kind of looked like the Shroud of Turin.
Okay, that one.
Facial features. Yeah, to me, those facial features and skin tone, but that's how he looked to me. That one I don't see him that way. Not, lots of people say they do.
Everybody he appears the way it was comfortable for the person. So
Right. He knows it's inside and out because he is within us, like you said.
Yes. And even though that has beard on it with me, when I had the face to face, he didn't have a beard because he knew I liked clean shaven men.
Oh, okay. Okay. And I like the
beard.
Not the full beard, but yeah, I like that. And he appears to me like that with a closely cropped beard. I even felt his whiskers on my face. I have them all over the place. I'm just so happy to talk to you about him.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sharon, for having me.
Of course. Thank you. And thank you everyone for watching. Please subscribe and do all that good YouTube good stuff. And we will see you again. Thank you, Janet.
You bet. My pleasure.
Okay.